This August 1st, 2019, Benin celebrates the 59th anniversary of its independence. On the eve of this event, President Talon, in his address to the nation as of tradition, made a lot of announcements that aim to improve the living conditions of his fellow citizens. Many in Zimbabwean cities are suffering from power and water shortages. Some are now choosing to return to the countryside. For many in rural areas, the dream is to move to the cities for a better and easier life. But now, those basic necessities are a thing of the past in Zimbabwe. After 22 months of construction work, the Chinese stadium built for Military World Games is put to use for the benefit of soldier athletes from some 100 nations. This newly and modern built edifice is the largest world-class 5-ring sports center in the country. That's all for our top stories today. Stay tuned for more details in this newscast. In a speech of more than 10 minutes, the President of the Benin Republic, Patrice Talon, addressed his fellow citizens. What marked this moment remained the announcement and strong promises, including a series of social measures in the microcredit sectors, to the poorest and the integration of young graduates in employment. In March last year, President Talon had already granted about 6 billion CFA francs amount for the microcredit program for the poor. This sum will not only be raised to 10 billion or about 17 million US dollars, but will also be renewed every year to strengthen microcredit funds for the poorest in order to impact more beneficiaries. In addition to this microcredit program, Patrice Talon has announced the implementation of social program of integration into employment. This program will consist of recruiting 2,000 young graduates each year to support the state to insert them into public and private companies over a period of 2 years, with the hope that they will be useful and effective in achieving their goals. Recruit at the end of the insertion period or when they will still their own self-employment. For the Beninese president, these initiatives with a strong social impact are proof of the equitable distribution of the fruits of the country's economic growth.
For many in rural areas, the dream is to move to the city for a better and easier life. But now, those basic necessities are a thing of the past in Zimbabwe.
When we lived here in Harare, everything was bright, but now the lack of power is making life difficult for us. I am not young anymore. My children take care of me by usually sending me food in bulk. However, now it's all rotting in the refrigerator.
For many here in Harare, finding power to cook basic meals or even water to clean has become a challenge. At the same time, health hazards like cholera and typhoid are plaguing the commercial capital. Continuous power outages have left many here helpless as they battle to access candles and firewood in the urban city.
I have grandchildren that need to eat. How do I cook for them when electricity only comes after midnight? Should I then be waking up at 2 a.m. to cook for my grandchildren and make sure they have everything they need? I cannot get firewood in town. Where will I find trees to chop?
As resources disappear in urban cities, many Zimbabweans are opting to return to rural areas. The reason being, they'll source their water at the nearby stream and firewood from surrounding communes, making life a lot easier.
The future bill contains 190 clauses. It brings positive developments to the profession, including the redefinition of the profile of the Togolese journalist, the consecration of the notion of press enterprise, and taking into account the online media. Organized with the support of the Embassy of France through the project of training and support to the audiovisual and media sector, these medias are attended by some 50 representatives, including professional press organizations, public media, journalism schools and institutes, and other communication professions. The 2019 edition of the Pan-African Women's Organization is entitled Celebrating Partial Victories. The celebration of 31st July thus offers African women a framework for exchanges with their governments on the major constraints to their well-being and to the development of the continent. As such, the Pan-African Women's Organization annually calls its member countries to celebrate 31st July in order to create the opportunity to capitalize on the achievements made in favor of gender equality and to strengthen the debates on the rights of women and development in Africa. The women of Africa, in the wake of the independence of some of their countries and in spite of the artificial borders of languages, political opinions, overcoming contradictions, these women have decided to unite and have formed a single association in order to better get to know one another, to give and take experiences, to combine their efforts for the emancipation of women on the African continent. The association is the Pan-African Women's Organization. The total liberation of the African continent, the elimination of the apartheid, and the establishment of a common justice that defends human rights as a human being became the priority objectives. Thus, on July 31st, 1962, was created in Dar es Salaam, Tanganyika, the current Tanzania, the Conference of African Women, the first women's organization in Africa that will become the Pan-African Women's Organization following the Dakar Congress in 1974, or July 31st was dedicated to African Women's Day. We have come a long way, but we still have a long way to go, the women say. There are many causes of stress at work. Knowing how to manage your stress at work is essential to avoid burnout. For the generation of millennials or internet generation, which will account for 75% of assets in 2025, according to a Women Up study, well-being is the first criterion of loyalty to a company. So the question is not, should we be happy at work, but rather, how can we cultivate well-being at work? There is no magic recipe for this. The mission of the leaders is therefore to find the best formula, which is more a matter of trust than a football budget. Clarity is one of the pillars of happiness at work. The first is to give meaning so that everyone knows why they are working and to specify the company's objectives. According to the 2019 Choose My Company survey, one of the first criteria for happiness at work is to see the impact of his or her work in the success of the company. This necessarily involves precise job descriptions so that each employee is aware of the scope of his or her position and their impact on the company's objectives. On the other hand, the framework of the company must also be sufficiently clear to allow everyone to know their little wiggle room, both in terms of decision-making and in terms of the posture to be adopted. Once the objectives and the framework are defined, all the conditions are met to offer freedom in the planning of work. In a bid to gain greater market share in Brazil's competitive ride-sharing sector, Chinese company Didi Xujing has begun offering financial services for drivers, which is a move that has been warmly welcomed in the countries as millions of people do not have access to bank accounts. A couple years ago, local resident Jose Fernando da Silva lost his job and wanted to become a driver for a ride-sharing company. However, he didn't have a bank account to receive his earnings. He wasn't alone, as tens of millions in Brazil don't use formal banking. It was exactly this reality that prompted Chinese firm Didi Xujing to launch a payment card for drivers to get people like Silva to join their local Didi's 99 app. Passengers' fares are paid directly to the driver's card within 1 hour of a trip, and the money can be used immediately to make purchases or pay bills. Didi's 99 and Uber are the two key players in Brazil, and both claim roughly 600,000 drivers each. Uber reports 22 million customers, while Didi's 99 says it has 18 million.
The competitor is very strong, to be honest. They are a very respectable player in this industry. But we truly believe we can offer a better solution and we can win in the long run, right? For example, if we think about one example of local innovation is the 99 card we are doing.
Wang also said that the card satisfies the driver's needs by providing fast cash flows.
We know that our drivers, they need a really fast cash flow to pay their gas to work, to make groceries, and pay their bills. When we do surveys asking them, what is the true differential of DD's offering. 99 card is always mentioned as one of the key innovation differences.
DD's partner in the 99 card said working with people outside the banking system opens a large market in developing countries like Brazil. This partnership between DD and MasterCard is innovative because it allows for the financial inclusion of millions of people who do not have access to banking system. In Brazil, there are 60 million people who do not have bank accounts, said Paulo Frossar, Vice President for Business Development at MasterCard Latin America. Brazil is the world's largest market for DD outside of China, and the company claims to have ambitious plans and innovative ideas to further strengthen its position in this key Latin America economy.
This modern building is the largest newly built stadium for the upcoming military games, Wuhan Five Rings Sports Center. It is a world-class stadium built based on Olympic standards. It consists of a stadium that can hold 30,000 people, a gymnasium that can seat 8,000, and a swimming center.
The design of the Wuhan Five Rings Sports Center adopts the central axis symmetry and the one's core and 2 points mode. The bird view of the one stadium, together with the gymnasium and the swimming center, looks like a phoenix spreading two wings, which shows that the local people have a spirit of going all out in their work.
The steel structure used in the Five Rings Sports Center won the Golden Steel Award, the highest award of the China Building Society, for its novel structure, difficult positioning, and high precision. 3 important events such as track and field, table tennis, and the rescue on water. From March to June this year, it successively hosted the China Super Football League, table tennis, and the water life-saving test contests for the military games. The construction of the sports center took 22 months. Among the newly built venues for the military games, it was the first to be completed and to go into operation. It held an opening event on July 1st. After the military events, it will be turned into a public fitness and entertainment space.
This August 1st, 2019, Benin celebrates the 59th anniversary of its independence. On the eve of this event, President Talon, in his address to the nation as of tradition, made a lot of announcements that aim to improve the living conditions of his fellow citizens. Many in Zimbabwean cities are suffering from power and water shortages. Some are now choosing to return to the countryside. For many in rural areas, the dream is to move to the cities for a better and easier life. But now, those basic necessities are a thing of the past in Zimbabwe. After 22 months of construction work, the Chinese stadium built for military World Games is put to use for the benefit of soldier athletes from some 100 nations. This newly and modern built edifice is the largest world-class Five Rings Sports Center in the country. That's the end of our newscast of the day, but keep watching G24 for further news.